Happy New Year, Sega fans. Dan the Mega Driver here, and yes, that's another year done. 2024 consigned to the history books. And all in all, what a great year to be a Sega fan. Perhaps the best year in the last 2 decades. We had amazing announcements like Project Century, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, and Virtua Fighter 6. There were further details on Sega's new era reboots of classic franchises, and we actually got some amazing games from Sega in the here and now. 2024 was a solid year for games in general, amid some rather concerning noise around industry growth, cost and associated layoffs. I played a number of 2024's new releases, which included releases such as the excellent Hellblade 2 and Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. But when it was all said and done, my 2024 was absolutely dominated by Sega, as you may expect. So here are my top 5 games of 2024. At number 5 we have Unicorn Overlord. From the legendary Vanillaware, formed from the team behind Princess Crown, comes this wonderful strategy RPG. As you'd expect from the developer, the game possesses a gorgeous 2D art style with characters that fit the traditional tropes of the fantasy genre, yet have a style that brings them to life, feeling both cutting edge, yet evocative of mid-90s video games. Unicorn Overlord is somewhat unique in its gameplay execution, though it bears a little bit of resemblance to games like Shining Force, but it blends the management of units within a map with real-time mechanics and traversal. It's a fascinating and addictive setup that becomes incredibly deep as the campaign progresses and the complexities continue to unfurl. While the main story doesn't win any awards for originality, the character engagement and side quests really endear the game's cast and setting to the player. It's a mammoth campaign too, and while I haven't finished it yet, I've already spent more time with this one than most other 2024 releases, and every moment is an absolute pleasure, heightened by that stunning Vanillaware art style and a rousing soundtrack. Easily one of the best games released in 2024.
We march on.
Sonic X Shadow Generations comes in at number 4. This was a surprise to me more than anything. In the months leading up to the release, I'd expressed a concern that Sonic Generations hadn't actually aged well, that the Shadow Generations campaign would be stunted, and that the package itself might be something of a disappointment. I'm happy to report that I was very, very wrong. Not only do the very small changes to Sonic Generations make the game a joy to play in the modern day, but the Shadow Generations side of the package is utterly exceptional. Shadow Generations is like a Sonic Frontiers 1.5. It's a wonderful follow-up to that open zone style that was represented in that game. The white space hub world is utterly incredible, building on the 2D space in Sonic Generations and expanding on the concepts of Frontiers with a smaller but far more packed sandbox. It all adds up to an utterly fantastic experience, one of the best Sonic games in the last 20 years and a promising sign of things to come. I came away from the whole experience grinning from ear to ear, and you can hear my full thoughts on the video I made during the game's early access period. Now unfortunately, it comes with a bit of a caveat since I didn't play Astrobot at the time of recording, and as a fan of Astro's Playroom, it's possible that that may have supplanted Generations in this top 5 list, breaking Sega's dominance. But that didn't happen, and it shouldn't take away from the fact that Sonic X Shadow Generations delivered an utterly spectacular Sonic experience, and remains one of the best games of 2024. The epic Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth comes in at number 3. Ichiban Kasuga and Kazuma Kiryu combined in what promised to be the grandest and most epic title in the Yakuza series yet. While certain elements of the plot suffered from poor pacing, the rest of the game remains one of the greatest role-playing games in recent years. A huge cast, a deep job system, dozens of minigames and an abundance of side activities that eclipse anything from a prior Yakuza game, including literal Pokemon and Animal Crossing sub-games, make it a truly epic experience. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth delivered on pretty much all fronts. and while I personally felt that the main story was among the weakest in the series, it is a roaring success in pretty much every category, and the Kiryu-focused side quests that drove the final third of the game really did have an emotive pull that actually made up for the core story's pacing issues. I went into a lot of detail in this one earlier in the year, so check that out if you'd like to see more. But all in all, it is easily one of the best games this year, with exceptional gameplay, music and sound, and a wealth of content to keep you playing for months and months on end. Can I really put a remake of a 2006 title second on my list of the best of 2024? When it's Persona 3 Reload I can. I spoke about this game in a recent video, but it's worth reiterating what a profound impact that Persona 3 Reload has had on me. This was the game that finally sold me on Persona, that transformed me into a fan of the series, of Shin Megami Tensei and of modern day Atlus. Persona 3 Reload simply oozes style, but it's more than that. While the gorgeous anime style visuals and transitions drew me in, it was the battle system that kept me playing through those early throws. It was the addiction of finding and fusing personas that pulled me in further, and ultimately that led to the emotional attachments that I felt towards the world, the supporting cast, and the entire experience that will live with me forever. I spent over 120 hours playing Persona 3's main campaign throughout the year. This was less a playthrough and more of a lived-in experience. I was entering Tartarus almost daily. I was forging those friendships, giving guidance and support to those in the game world that needed it. No more can this whole experience and attachment be summed up than when I listened to Want to Be Close recently when I was editing the Persona 3 video. When it came on, I felt a wave of nostalgia of a time in-game where things were more straightforward and innocent. A time that was the best part of a year in the past, both in the game and in the real world. Very few games have ever made that impression on me, and this masterful remake stands out as one of the year's best for that and 100 other reasons.
By this story of fantasy, may this faded world be painted anew.
Metaphor ReFantazio really shouldn't surprise anyone as being my game of the year, or anyone's game of the year at this point, given that its awards and nominations keep rolling in. I first became very aware of Metaphor during the summer months in 2024. At that time, Persona 3 Reload had already won me over to the Atlus RPG stable, so Metaphor became my most anticipated game of 2024. When the demo went live in October, I was on it straight away, burning through the huge opening prologue in a weekend and sharing my very excited impressions. When I got my hands on the full game, I was not disappointed. It was, in fact, even grander than I had initially anticipated. The game world is so impressively realised and deep. It may be a high fantasy setting, but it's anything but typical. And the amount of imagination in the world, its technology and its races is truly awe-inspiring. This is coupled with some exceptional audio and visual design elements. While I have experienced some performance issues on both Xbox Series X and PC, this does not detract from an experience that is both unique yet evocative, blending pastel colour with anime influences. And of course, the music from Shoji Meguro is absolutely astounding, perhaps even surpassing his work on the Persona series. That would be all for naught had it not been for the deep gameplay represented in the game's battle and job system, which builds on Atlus's previous work to create something extremely compelling. The story too is utterly phenomenal and works extremely well in translating some of the issues of the real world into a video game without becoming overbearingly preachy. It's also more challenging than many of Atlus's other titles, requiring lots of planning in both how you spend your game time and tactical preparation, making every victory truly feel earned. Metaphor ReFantazio delivers in a way that few games do. For me, it's absolutely up there with the likes of Elden Ring as one of the greatest games in the last decade. a truly exceptional piece of software that should be enjoyed by everyone.
Darkness!
Smooth finish. Great work, everyone.
Every year, I do love to rank my top 5 or top 10 games over the last 12 months, though usually I do this just over a post in social media. For 2024, I felt compelled to share my top 5 games of the year on the Sega Guys channel because they were all made by Sega. Honestly, what an absolutely stupendous year for our favourite video game company. Given the trials and tribulations that Sega fans have endured over the last couple of decades, it really feels like Sega are hitting their stride right now. Perhaps not in the same way that they did in the 90s, but in a way that resonates more with the modern gamer. Anyway, we'd love to hear your favourite games of 2024, Sega or not Sega, and if you'd like to see more of this type of content, let us know. If you've enjoyed this video, give us a like and a subscribe as that really helps the channel, and if you want to be extra mega, think about becoming a member from as little as 99p. But regardless of any of that, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in 2025 on the Sega side.